Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. It's the France 24 debate. We're talking at the outset of the first official visit by India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi of the BJP, the Hindu Nationalist Party, winning by a landslide last May. He is in France, that we've been saying in part one of our discussion. They're talking deals over such things as nuclear power, perhaps sometime down the road, the sale of Rafale jets, but a lot of other business deals on tap. We're talking about it with Eric Mukherjee, Chief Investment Officer at 21st Capital Business, and who is hosting, as we were saying, a conference next week called "Is It an Impossible Struggle Against Demo Bureaucracy in India?" We were talking about the problem in India is, of course, not everything happens on the federal level, but also on the state level. With us as well, Paris-based businessman Deepak Rajput. It's a 3-day visit for Modi, arriving tonight. He's got a trip to Airbus headquarters in Toulouse. He's also going to be going to the northern French city of Lille. And we saw when he went to the U.S., there was that rock star welcome when he went to Madison Square Garden in New York with the diaspora. The diaspora this time will be meeting at the Louvre, you were saying. Indeed, the Indian diaspora based in France, predominantly based in Paris, will be meeting Mr. Modi around 6 o'clock on Saturday evening at Louvre. I've been the member of the Facebook group on which some advertisements were put for this specific meeting of diaspora with the Prime Minister Modi. And from all the buzz which I've gathered, people are very excited about his visit. People are coming from other places as well to meet Mr. Modi and to listen to him firsthand what he wants to say. Something which strikes me the most is the interest of the youth, the Indian youth based in Paris. They are very crazy. They are very keen on meeting Prime Minister Modi. And it's fascinating to see that someone who was born in 1950, he can link so well with people who are born in 1990s, 1980s. And that's something which I think is not many world leaders can do at this point of the time. All right. We're also in the company, by the way, of Mihir Sharma, journalist with the Business Standard, author of Restart, the Last Chance for the Indian Economy. Before the trip, by the way, the French ambassador to India touted the idea of Paris helping with the building of 100 so-called smart cities. That's to say, cities in India with better grids for traffic, so there's less congestion, better water supply, better power.
I think the first one is, of course, Make in India. As I told you, we are already there, and what is important is that where we are going to go now. Urban development and smart cities, that's a new, urban development is of course not new, but what is new is that we are heading towards new concepts and very forward-looking projects. We will have also focus on everything related to clean energy.
Mihir Sharma, what are your thoughts? You just heard Deepak Rajput, a supporter of Modi, who's going to be there when he meets the diaspora at the Louvre on Saturday. What are your thoughts when you hear all this talk about this tech-savvy leader who's trying to develop so-called smart cities?
Well, I think the fascinating thing about the whole smart city idea is that nobody quite knows exactly what a smart city is. So Mr. Modi made the promise, essentially, of 100 smart cities, and then a lot of governments have shown a great deal, a lot of governments, a lot of companies shown a great deal of interest in this. But my favorite story about this is that the Singaporean government about 2 months ago sent in an official note to the Indian government asking it to define a smart city so they could help. And the Indian government has not yet replied. So Mr. Modi does say a lot of things that are not immediately clear exactly what he means.
He's a good politician by the sound of it then.
Oh, he's a wonderful communicator. He just, you know, from a political point of view, not necessarily from a policy point of view.
Eric, what are your thoughts on this smart city concept?
You know, I think that anything that's different from a standard Indian city is smart by Indian standards. And traffic is a catastrophe. Electricity is a catastrophe. I think Mihir is a little bit I mean, unfair to the, there have been a lot of discussions about the achievements of Modi and Gujarat, and especially the development index, and Jean-Joseph Boileau and other French analysts have been negative about that. There's one thing that that seems to work in Gujarat is the administration, the road system, and the electricity. Now, I don't know if that's smart, but that's better than what things are in the other states in general.
All right, the Indian edition of the Daily Mail says the number of likes for the Prime Minister on his official Facebook page is down ever so slightly. However, he still has 27.8 million followers, less than the nearly 43 million for Barack Obama. Certainly, Eric, a tad more than François Hollande, 537,000 followers.
He definitely is a better communicator. He has,
Have the French
so much
not
presence.
discovered Facebook yet? Maybe.
My kids spend a lot of time on Facebook, but they're half Indian on the other hand.
A lot of Mr. Modi's success came from social media. It came from reaching out to kids in smaller towns who a lot of the regular politicians of his generation had chosen to ignore. And, social media, Twitter, Facebook, little YouTube videos about Gujarat's achievements. This made a big difference in terms of getting Mr. Modi's name out across what is such a vast continental-sized country. And what is interesting is that now that he's become Prime Minister, he's lost a little bit of that energy on social media. And people are beginning to realize he's losing a bit of the messaging edge that he had earlier.
I have a slight different perspective with me here. I definitely agree that that Mr. Modi has been able to reach youth as well as old people who are living in faraway villages, towns, or cities across the breadth of Indian subcontinent. But I still believe that when he goes abroad, when he talks with the diaspora abroad, or whether he meets foreign leaders, he's been putting all this stuff on the Facebook. And this is something which anyone who opens his Facebook account sees it firsthand. Mr. Modi, I think 2 or 3 weeks back, he put a photograph of Paris with the Eiffel Tower and with the Invalides, and we could see, and he talked about what he intends to do in France and what the importance of relation France and India has. So people, they are looking at it. It's true that when you follow a certain leader over a long period of time, from the elections till after 1 year, 2 years, things tend to get lethargic, but that does not mean that he has lost the shine. The shine is very much there. People are still interested, especially when he goes abroad and he puts pictures on his interaction with the foreign leaders.
All right, he's active on social media. He doesn't interact much with journalists, though. The Hindustan Times claiming that it was the first interview. I don't know if that's true or not, since he became Prime Minister.
If you compare with some of the other prime ministers that we had in the past, this is true that Mr. Modi has been interactive less. But at the same time, he says that he works quite long hours. He works, 12 or 16 hours per day. So maybe
he'll make some time soon to speak to reporters.
There's something which I like to add out here, that Indian media is Indian media loves sensationalization of news. And maybe for someone like Mr. Modi, who has been at the top of the news some 15 years back, it's better to avoid the media and do the job and let media analyze the results of the job which Mr. Modi has done.
Mihir Sharma?
Well, I think I'd be the first to agree that there's a lot that's wrong with the Indian media. However, it's worth noting that the Delhi correspondent of Le Monde tweeted a little while ago that he was offered an interview with Mr. Modi and he had to reject it because they didn't want a direct interaction. They wanted him to send in emails, and he would, and then the answers would be vetted by Mr. Modi's entire team. So Mr. Modi is very, very careful about the media.
Which, by the way, the Figaro newspaper agreed to.
Sorry?
Which, by the way, the Figaro newspaper agreed to do. They sent it.
Agreed to, and I think that's exactly what Le Monde was trying to point out.
All right, so we were saying it at the outset. Narendra Modi on the campaign trail, even though he hails from the Hindu nationalist BJP, insisted it would be, as he put it, toilets before temples, that is to say, economic development before any ideology. There is concern, however, that ideology is beginning to creep back into some of the policies that are being made, not so much perhaps on the national level, but certainly in certain areas, and there have been instances where Hindu nationalists have been described as emboldened. Let's take a look in this report filed by France 24's correspondent Mandakini Galat.
Their saffron scarves command attention and are a dead giveaway of their religious identity. This Hindu vigilante group is on its way to a village to deal with a disturbing matter that has come to its attention.
We've been hearing rumors about how some families here were forced to convert to Christianity a few days ago. We've come here to find out on what basis they converted.
They're well known in the area for their hardline religious views and their strong network of informers. Soon, the villagers rush out to assure them that everything's in order.
I told them we're Hindu and don't want to convert, but they came anyway and said we should become Christian.
As it turns out, no Hindus were converted here, although missionaries have been preaching to the community for over a year, a practice not forbidden by law.
We're willing to die for our faith. We won't let one Hindu change their religion.
Aju Chauhan rose to fame in December 2014 when his group organized a mass conversion of 15 Muslim families.
Converted to another faith. Now, while questions here are being raised if this conversion was voluntary or forced, the opposition is demanding...
Hindu extremists call it homecoming, the return to Hinduism of people whose ancestors adopted Islam centuries ago. Reports soon began emerging from across the country of similar reconversions.
Giving it their own twist.
We went to Agra to meet the community of Muslim rag pickers who were the first to be reconverted. Shahida was one of them. She says that a few months ago, a Hindu group invited all of them to a routine ceremony.
They told us they'd be handing out ration cards, and so we agreed to attend the ceremony. Because we're poor, we thought the card would be useful to buy food. We had absolutely no idea that they'd be converting us to Hinduism.
Induced conversions, where people are lured by offering them money or other benefits, are against the law in India. Shahida and others in this community rejected the reconversion and are now practicing Muslims once again. We went back to meet Aju Chauhan and his group of Hindu strongmen. A year ago, the Hindu Nationalist Party, the BJP, came to power with a massive mandate. The victory instilled these men with confidence.
Since our Prime Minister Modi was elected, the Hindus finally have someone to promote their cause. They call us saffron terrorists, yet for too long Hindus have been keeping their heads down, just waiting for the sword to strike, even when our community was under attack. Now things need to change. It's time other people start keeping their heads down.
Prime Minister Modi's politics is deeply rooted in the Hindu nationalist movement. He began his career as a member of the largest Hindu group, the RSS. But he won the election in May by promising voters an economically vibrant country. After being criticized for remaining silent for months, he finally admonished the Hindu groups in parliament in March.
India first.
Hindu groups have also begun to use public education as a tool for indoctrination. Leading the charge is 86-year-old Dinanath Batra, member of a government committee to reform India's education policy. He recently helped introduce the Hindu holy book, the Gita, as part of the school curriculum in one state.
If you want to build character, you cannot do it without religion. So you should have religious studies. We need value-based education, and the first step to do this is to completely rewrite all textbooks.
Hindu groups used their vast network to mobilize support for Prime Minister Modi in the general election in 2014. Keeping them under control may now prove to be a huge challenge for his government.
Mihir Sharma, are these isolated incidents, or are Hindu nationalists emboldened?
I think that you have to work very hard to spin them, to weave them together into anything that is centralized and coherent. The way that this thing happens is that when somebody like Mr. Modi is elected, people who believe in his ideology at the lowest level, in individual villages across North India, they begin to feel a sense of empowerment. And then they may try to push their own agenda at the local level, regardless of what the Prime Minister may say in Parliament or not say. This is a really large country, and Mr. Modi leads a very diffuse party. There's a limited amount that he can do to control things one way or the other. But the truth is, he hasn't tried very hard either.
Hasn't tried very hard either. We heard those remarks he made in Parliament.
Absolutely. But please note once again, he says things like, it doesn't, whichever religion may be forcing another religion. He's always very careful to use what in American politics is called a dog whistle. When his followers hear him talk, frequently they say, oh, he's not talking about us. He's talking about Christian missionaries. He's talking about them bullying people. So he's very, very careful to not alienate these people, while at the same time sounding to the rest of us in the cities like he's taking a stand.
Deepak Rajput?
There's something which I like to add to what Mihir has said. The video that you have shown has been disturbing for me. India, by large, is a secular society. It's a secular society which believes in the religious traditions of different communities. Fringe elements like these that you've shown in the report, they create more problems for Mr. Modi rather than helping him out. So Mr. Modi is well and good not to have such elements. Mihir, he was right that BJP and its support organization, they are a big group. There's some part which, at the ground level, which can't be controlled by Mr. Modi. But Mr. Modi knows, and it's a fact that when Mr. Modi says in the parliament that his agenda is the economic development of the country and not to let to anyone such kind of activities, people listen to a certain extent, if not to, let's say, fully extent. So I believe things like this should not be happening in future. Mr. Modi has been posting pictures with Christian leaders on the Facebook. He's been congratulating Christian community on the Easter. He, in the past, has also interacted with Muslim leaders, specific Muslim community leaders as well. And as Mr. John Joseph was talking about, his one phrase like Raja Raj, that's if the king rules well, the people are happy. So here, Mr. Modi is trying to show the way and trying to calm down that such kind of tensions which is happening in the country.
Eric Mukherjee, I know that on the Canadian leg of his three-nation tour, Prime Minister Modi is going to be still dogged by accusations regarding that intercommunal violence that happened in his home state on his watch when he was governor more than a decade ago. Right. What can he do to shed that image of?
You know, I unfortunately think that he might have had a responsibility at that time. He's never denied it strongly enough. Then I think that fortunately people change, and that you have to at least give them the benefit of doubt on that. And I do like the sentences like Hindus and Muslims have to unite to fight poverty and all that. Frankly, in the end of ends, I think that the Indian National Congress was so corrupt and so headless, and so that Modi can't do worse than what they did. But there's one point where I'd like him to succeed, or at least not to fail, is to create more tension between the communities. I'm waiting. I'm waiting to see what happens. I don't know yet, frankly. I don't know yet. Sometimes but you know, when you're a politician and with that electoral base and in such a large country, and there have been so much tension, you can't say, he's not going to say things that are going to alienate 50% of the Hindus. I don't know if India is a secular country, but I know there are a lot of, believers and people who practice their religion with their hearts and minds, and so he has to be very careful with that if he wants. See, what he can do from the economic point of view in this democracy requires votes and popularity. And so he's walking this fine line where You know, he can't say things that displease the other people because he won't be able to do the other things that are very positive for the country. I hope he believes what he says on the
if you look towards
unity.
I just want to add one point out here. If you look towards the next parliament elections 4 years from now, so you're still going to have huge chunk of youth coming and voting for the first time, and these youth are not going to like people whom what we've seen in the images like these. So Mr. Modi will be careful. I know in state like Uttar Pradesh can be quite difficult, but Mr. Modi, he's totally right when he talks about economic development with social inclusion. That's the solution, I believe, in the long term for India.
Mihir Sharma, a final word on this. Can people change?
I think people can change. Whether or not Mr. Modi has changed is still open to interpretation, and it's open to question. I think the crucial thing is that Mr. Modi is a fine and brilliant politician. He's somebody who recognizes what it takes to stay in power. If it is the case that a little bit of communal polarization, a couple of small riots over here and there, a dozen people dead, will help him win an election, I don't think that he would step away from it. If he thinks that that's going to hurt him, then he will ensure it doesn't happen. It really is up to his own estimation of what's going to help him win the next election. And I am afraid I cannot share the optimism that, an absence of religious polarization, in fact, helps Mr. Modi or the BJP. I do not think that that is politically true. It has never been politically true, so,
All right, a sobering sentiment, and one that we can pick up on in a future conversation. Mihir Sharma, I want to thank you so much for joining us from Delhi. I want to thank as well Eric Mukherjee and Deepak Rajput. Well, of course, coverage of Prime Minister Modi's visit to France continues on our website, france24.com. Stay with us. Our Media Watch segment is next. And we're joined by James Creedon. Another big story that we're following is the blackout that we saw on the Francophone television network TV5, a station that's co-owned by France, Switzerland, Belgium, and Canada, by a group claiming its allegiance to ISIS.
That's right, Francois, and you put your finger on it there. They're claiming their allegiance to ISIS. So it's just interesting to see how this is played out on social media and in the French and foreign media today. First of all, of course, a huge...
Of course, I say a group, it could be one person.
That's right, that's right. And indeed, a lot of confusion about the origins of that particular cyber attack. You can see, first of all, though, that there was an immediate response from several French ministers. That's the Foreign Minister, the Culture Minister, and the Interior Minister appearing at the headquarters of TV5 Monde. Laurent Fabius, the Foreign Minister, also quick to reply on social media, expressing his support and solidarity for the freedom of press. Of course, this just a few months after the Paris attack, so I think the French authorities are very quick to show that they mean business when it is a question of defending the press and the freedom of the press. Now, you can see that really the way it was reported in the first few hours was as being directly originating from the Islamic State organization. That's a headline in The Guardian, also in the Financial Times, and across the French media too. We saw it being presented essentially as a fact. And it was one of our own journalists, Wassim Nasser, who pointed out one point of confusion, the fact that the text that appeared on that was actually not written in very good Arabic at all. In fact, there were spelling mistakes, and his conclusion really is that the authors of that text cannot be native Arabic speakers. So one can only draw the conclusion that their identity is at least not 100% confirmed. So if they claim to be linked to these...
There are foreign fighters in ISIS.
That's right. But I suppose it does lead to some doubts. And as you can see on this BBC headline, they did strike a note of caution in using, inverted commas, France's TV5 Monde, even if it's not just France's TV5 Monde, hit by Islamic State hackers in inverted
quotation
commas.
marks.
Exactly. So certainly, it was a terrorist attack. If you can define cyber attacks of this nature as terrorism, which the French Interior Minister did, and that is what
that's an argument we had in the newsroom.
Right.
Nobody was killed.
Right.
But it does spread fear.
Right. I suppose the definition of terrorism coming back on the table again. But in terms of the authors, you can see this article in L'Express Newsweekly, and their headline, they're being a little bit cautious. They're saying, well, it was terrorists. even you could say
That's quoting the Interior Minister, right?
I believe so, but TV Saint-Monde, in fact, yes, you're right, it was the Interior Minister who said that, but they certainly aren't naming in the headline who was behind it. Meanwhile, for Le Figaro, they are looking a little bit more broadly at the, I suppose, media warfare being carried out by the Islamic State organization, or Daesh as it is also known. But they do say in an interview, actually, there in the first paragraph of the article that we have to be very careful in terms of this cyber caliphate organization claims to be affiliated with the Islamic State organization, but not the contrary. In other words, the Islamic State organization is not saying for now that they are linked with this cyber caliphate organization. So I suppose the question remains, Francois, as asked here in the Metro News, on the Metro News website, who are these cyber Islamists who attacked TV Saint-Monde? We don't know for now. So I suppose the question will continue to be asked.
If they are cyber jihadists.
Right. We haven't done a very good job of clearing this up, have we? But
not yet.
Just questions for now.
All right, we're putting him out there.
Right.
Many thanks, James Creighton. He'll have all the answers in his next edition. Thank you for being with us here. I want to thank our panel once again. Thank you for joining us in the France 24 debate.